The Digimon TCG is one I haven't really taken much interest in since the spring of 2022, and there's quite a few reasons why. One of which is that I didn't really know anyone who played it, and there wasn't an online app that I can use to at least try out before I bought any actual cards. The second problem was fixed rather quickly since there was a mod on the workshop for Tabletop Simulator, and while I appreciate an official one, I'll just take this one for now. But once a friend and I started playing, I soon was really interested, picked up a starter deck at the time, which was the Gallantmon starter deck for like around BT7, and some packs from that current set, which again was also BT7. Then I also got interested once I saw the Beelmon line had some cards, and I instantly took to make a Beelmon deck. And after that, I've made a whole lot more decks since. And after learning the game's in and outs, I ended up loving it to the point where I think it might very well top Yu-Gi-Oh for me. And while I still love that TCG a lot, Digimon is the only one where I actually don't really mind playing super competitive in. I think the mechanics here are super fun and easy enough to understand, and for the most part are a good showcase of some stuff within the series. Like DNA Evolution, for example, where you take two different Digimon with certain colors to get, say, a level 5 out or higher. I like this a lot since DNA Evolution Digimon have bonus effects while doing so, and a lot of them are dual colored, so it can make deck building a little bit more unique. There's like one instance I can think of that isn't the case, like Chimeramon, but still, I just think it's very cool that a lot of them do end up doing that. While not a whole lot of meta decks I've seen really use DNA Evolution other than Empire Ultramon and Mastermon decks, I still think it's a cool idea brought over and it works really well. There's also the memory gauge, which I really think sets this game apart from other TCGs I played, those being Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and Magic, even though Magic was only for a short time. But on the memory gauge, I love it since it's a resource that can either really work for you or really screw you over, and it's always changing depending on like how the game state goes. For the latter, if you can't seem to get a memory tamer out, your opponent can give you as few memory as possible, and it really does limit your moves because say if they constantly give you like 2 or even like less memory, you can't really do anything about it, and by that point you can only really do like 1 or 2 things a turn, which isn't really the greatest. Some decks don't really care about that stuff like security control, and some green decks like Bloom Lordmon, where the latter can build up Digimon really fast, where memory choking isn't really an issue, and stuff like Bloom Lord and Hydramon can just gain a lot of memory. And with the former, with the right setup, you could just stall out your opponent and keep your turn either by gaining memory with cards like Kari, Hammer Spark, and the boost type cards. And, like with security control, the Hammer Spark and the boost type cards don't really matter all that much, at least from a lot of the deck lists I've seen, but that can usually just recover and just do a lot more annoying stuff. And even without memory gain, there are ways to reduce cost, either with tamers like Nokia from BT5, Maki from BT9, and the Digicross from BT10. I also like how this game handles searching because it's unlike any other card game I've played. Instead of looking for the exact pieces you need, you look at the cards on top of your deck and just grab what the card says. So say if you play Pokemon, you can grab a Tamer and a hybrid of 10 Warriors, or say if you play Davis, you can grab 1 green and blue Digimon. So of course it's always going to be different depending on the searcher. I also like it because it kind of makes you have to change your strategy on the fly and just grab, say, what would be the next best thing. Like, for example, if you grab, say, a Were-Garurumon instead of just the Garurumon X because you already have that stack going on raising, you could just go ahead with that instead of wasting your time with the level 4 when you already have, again, the stack ready. And a lot of the search cards I've noticed at least provide other value as well. Like if it's a rookie, you at least have another body on the field. If it's a tamer, again like Davis, he's a memory setter, so you at least have that. And if it's something like the boost, you can use the delay effect next turn to gain memory depending on how much is listed on the card. But not only can they, search, they can also just give you other benefits, which is again really cool and unlike other card games. Finding ways to either get your boss monster out either by gaining memory or just reducing the cost is always a fun experience with the system. And as I said, you can get screwed over. For me, matches sometimes were heavily against me just because I couldn't get enough memory just because of what my partner was doing. There's also the security, which is something else that always has me on the edge of my seat, whether it's mine or my opponent's. It kind of reminded me of the prize pool in the Pokemon TCG, but I think it's a lot more interactive in a lot of ways. Yellow decks, for example, can recover with various Digimon options, and also take out cards from there with stuff like TK from BT1. Other colors can either end up checking for a lot or just trashing the security, so effects can't really go off, but sometimes you hit an option or a tamer card and you can't really do a whole lot in that case other than like if you have a delicate plan. An option in security can be really deadly since, it can help pass turn with Hammer's Block, delete a Digimon with something like Gaia Force, or just help stall with stuff like Holy Wave. Of course, there's a lot more options out there, I just thought of those on top of my head. And there's also a tamer, which if you hit into that, it basically plays it for free, and it's not the worst thing, since say if they have one security left and by the end of the attack the tamer might not even see a whole lot of use, but regardless, just having more tamers can be really bad for you, because your opponent can just get more good effects off with those guys if they can last another turn or not. But regardless, there's always a decent amount of worry that goes into attacking directly, and I love it. I also really like how evolution is a massive part of the game and how it's designed, since you can't really play your high level stuff without massive downsides, since you give your opponent more memory and more plays. It also leaves you with not much in hand, since every time you evolve, you draw, also giving you more stuff to do. And a lot of Digimon have one Digivolve effects and inherent effects, which can give you more reason to evolve to get those good effects. While there might be some vanillas that might be better to play because of their low cost, I realize that really isn't a big case in the current meta. Like with some decks it is, like Bloom Lord, where they have a lot of low level stuff that just has really low cost. It's not, again, the biggest deal. Some decks like Security Control don't really kill, since more often than not they'll either play a really powerful option to get something off the field, or playing like Manga Angemon or Angelomon from the star deck just to do some really nasty effect to your Digimon, or in the case of Manga Angemon, just recover so you can stall out. And some other decks make good use of play effects like the cross decks like Blue Flail and Crossout, and just a few others, like I think Dolbigmon has a few stuff like that, and just a few other decks like Dragon Links and stuff. But still, there's a lot of decks that rely on when Digivolving stuff and just other various inherent effects. And it's kind of like the opposite of Pokemon, since I've noticed with the Mono version, there's not a whole lot of evolution decks, and if there is any, from what I've seen, it's just into a stage 1, and that's kind of lackluster to me, because I realized that for that game it's just a lot faster to slam big bodies instead of like building up to one really strong Pokemon. And I know there are all other Pokemon here and there that like have support abilities. One that I remember is Shaman from, I think, like some old set back in like the X and Y era, where you play it and then you could like draw until you have some amount of cards. And even with some new cards that I've seen in like the Pokemon Online app, they can help you draw or just grab stuff from grave and stuff like that. But again, with that, I don't really like it, just because again, the evolution stuff is just put on the backseat and hasn't been really a thing for a while from what I could tell. So I kind of feel Digimon has a good balance, because you can build up to a really powerful Digimon while also just drawing cards to make sure you have other options in your hand. And I also really love how this game has a good representation of various other Digimon that I never even knew about. And while this doesn't really impact the game itself, I just think it's a cool showcase of various Digimon. And while some of them aren't really meta cards, stuff like Hexabloumon from BT5, Dynarexmon from BT7 and 9, their artwork is really cool in the TCG, and I just really like the designs as Digimon, and they're really cool. And there's probably a lot of other Digimon that are in the TCG that I just kind of forgot about, but again, there are a lot of them, and I just absolutely love it. And overall, for me, I love playing this TCG. From trying out the new sets to even making random rogue decks every once in a while is extremely fun. From my experience, there can be some troublesome decks here and there, but I think that's commonplace for TCGs. Decks like War Greymon can be really annoying to face, since they have access to good blockers, deletion, the Digivolve, and just getting a lot of checks. Melguru on X, with it being able to unsuspend numerous times a turn. Bloom Lordmon can end up swarming the field or just getting a ton of memory in various other decks. And there are some troublesome cards like Death Xmon, where, if you don't get rid of it as soon as possible, it feels like you basically lost the game at that point. And right now in the English meta, we're in EX3, and OPT 11 is coming out like in February, so keep that in mind for when you watch this video. And again, I don't really mind fighting the best decks, since, they're good for a reason, and I still do like seeing different interactions and the small differences even in top decks, which is really cool. I also really do like how some cards have like references to other parts of Digimon, like the anime or just other games. Like how EX3Vmon has the background of a hut in the PS1 card game, or how some of the memory boosts reference Digimon World 1. Even some effects like Sasamon's evolving effect from a Tamer, if you put 10 Tamers or hybrids back in the deck, is, basically how it evolved in Frontier. There's a lot of other references, of course, but those are the ones that kind of stuck out to me. And overall, this game is insanely fun, and frankly, I don't really have a whole lot of issues with it. Some of the stuff I can think of is how some cards are like stupid where to find like promos, where it took me a good while just to get like a set of Jellymon promos and just gain older cards, since Bandai handles it similar to how Konami handles Yu-Gi-Oh!, where they just release a set and the older the set is, the harder it is to find the card. And while Bandai did announce a reprint set, which is good, I just wish it happened more often. I also wish that they had an online version, like an official one, since using tabletop is a good substitute, but again, I feel like having a dedicated one could make people at least try out more, and of course, more people try it, the better. But again, I still plan to play the game as long as it gets supported. And for now, I really want to hear what you guys ended up liking about this TCG. Let me know in the comments below. And also let me know what decks you really like playing and what's your favorite color. Mine's, I just so happen to really like green and blue, but I'm willing to try out other colors. Like, I ended up playing red a little bit because, Gaiamon released in BT9 and I really like Gaiamon. I ended up playing a little bit of yellow here and there and stuff like that. But again, let me know all that stuff in the comment. And don't forget to, again, comment, subscribe, and follow my Twitter, which is linked down below. See you guys later, and thank you all for watching.